I think I want to do it there. I'd like to share our standard system on the section that we would be looking at today. Whilst I get to that, today we'll be discussing metalwork. Looking at metalwork, and when we have a look in the standard system, you'll notice that metalwork is given to us on page 70 in the standard system. And I'll then make my way through to page 70 as we if you look at page 70 that deals with the metalwork, you notice that under classification in the metalwork, it says to us that metalwork shall be classified according to the type, quality, and the composition of this metal. Any circular work shall be given separately, stating the mean radius, and where necessary, which faces are circular. Now, when we speak of the mean radius, what that means is, like you would know and understand, is that if I have that and I have a radius there, and I have a radius there, it means that I would then be working with, that would refer to the mean radius. Okay? That's what the standard system says when we have circular work, and we would have to state which area is circular. Look at this further. Say that the work required to be prepared or painted before delivery on site shall be so described. And what I mean with that is sometimes when we do measure work, especially metal work, sometimes we will indicate, as you guys would be able to remember going back to third year structural steel work, should the steel be prepped off-site, it would be stated as such. If it would be prepped and painted on-site, it should be stated as such. And that's why it says there that work required to be prepared or painted before delivery to the site shall be so described. Work required to be galvanized, chromium plated, anodized, metal sprayed, epoxy coated, stove enameled, vitreous enameled, or otherwise treated or finished shall be so described. Now, those of us who have worked in industry, who have done some work, have been exposed, you cannot sit in this class if you have not done some form of in-service training. And some of us might have come across where we had elements that needed to be either galvanized or enameled or vitreous enameled or whatever. And we will have to describe that in our description column when doing the measure. Work specifically required to be treated or finished before or after manufacture or assembly or after delivery to site shall be so described. So what this tells us, it says that whatever the finish that we need to get to this metal work, we would have to describe that, and we would state in there whether it should be prepared before delivery to site or whether it would be done once placed in position. Welding, brazing, soldering, holes, bolting, rivets, and riveting shall be included in the description of the relevant work. The same as for our structural steel. If you can remember, can recall back to third year when we did structural steel, especially in trusses. If the trusses were bolted, then the bolts for the truss, where the truss members would be bolted together, would be included in our description. If all the members would be welded together, it would be included in the description and it would be so stated. And the same with our metal work here. But where two different components are then required to be welded or to be bolted together or riveted together, we would then only measure the rivets or the bolts or the welding of those two different components. That's the classification. So when we look at circular cutting, any cutting that would be circular would be measured in meters. Rolled or drawn solid sections shall be measured to the design size of the components, and the calculation of masses shall be in accordance with the structural steel tables. Structural steel tables that you should have discussed in your third year. Structural steel tables that gives us the different weights of respective elements in the sizes and the like. And where we get all our information from, especially for our bolts, for all of those we measured in, and all of those will be measured in tons. Some of them would be measured in kilogram per meter squared, so that at the end of the day, that our final quantity for specific measures would then therefore be in tons. We make no allowance in the mass for rolling margin, rivets, additional material in welding, decorative or protective treatment, nor for temporary constructional aids. What that means, something that you were taught in your first year, that when we measure net. So we do not make an allowance, we measure net, and the contractors that would price this would then allow for these additional weldings, rivets, for rolling margins. They would do that in their pricing, where they would allow for these additional and for the waste to that here. The cross-sectional size of components shall be stated as such. And as I said, all of these are measured in kilogram or in tons. Tubular work. You know what tubular work is? Would be a tube. Sometimes we get railings or metal work where we're dealing with tubes, and it's like a pipe, and that would be measured in meters. Tubular columns be measured in number. And the description shall include caps and base plates. Screwed and socketed pipings shall be given in accordance with the principles that are laid down in plumbing and drainage. Now, later on in the year, we will be dealing with plumbing and drainage, where we will touch on those elements whereby we would then look at sockets and the screwing together of all of those. We're delving down into seeing what the standard system says as to how it is that we should be measuring those. Sheeting, wire mesh, screening, expanded metal, gratings and the likes will be measured in meters squared. And there'll be no deductions for any openings or ones, etc., not exceeding 0.5 meters squared. And our description shall be deemed to include holes and notches that we might encounter. In our metalwork, as it is in our structural steelwork, bolts, including nuts and washers, will be measured in kilograms. Brag bolts, expanding bolts, anchor bolts will be measured in number, and the description shall include for nuts and washers. A distinction shall be made for those requiring to be embedded in tops, sides, or in soffits of concrete. The reason for that is it will depend on how much holding power those bolts would have to show. Our stairs, balustrading, cat ladders, grills, gates, framework, etc. Now, when dealing with stairs and landings, balustrades, cat ladders, grills, gates, frameworks, these are all measured. And we'll see here the unit of measurement that we have either measured in kilogram or measured in meters or measured in number. And therefore, because of that, when we now do go through and we measure the next section, we would be looking at different alternatives. And I would show and we would be looking at how we would measure each one of those sections that are being reflected here as per the standard system. That is so that should we then be working for a contract and having to price a bills of quantity, we would then know that we were told how to measure something that reflects in kilograms or in meters or in number. So we're looking at these different alternatives. And please, when we do have an assessment and we deal with metalwork, I will not say to you, I cannot expect or I can say to you that you need to look at alternative A. And if I speak to alternative A, I will mean that you will now have to measure everything in meters. Or I say to you alternative B, you have to know that you have to measure that in number. Alternative C, where I would say to you, it also be in meters, but if I take alternative, that will be in meters as well. Alternative D that I'm bringing in, that will then be in tons. But I don't think I'll be as cruel as that, as just expecting you to, but I will state to you, using alternative A and measuring this in meters, I'm sure I'll say that. And then it changes the whole dynamics as to how we need to go about and approaching this metalwork. So yes, there are different ways in which we can approach. Standard system says that we can approach this. And when measuring, it shall be given in inclusive terms, stating for each item the construction and the cross-sectional size of the components and the number where relevant, how many would be required? Alternatively, when these inclusive items are not practicable, work of similar design shall be suitably grouped under headings stating the general requirement, in which case a separate item shall be given for the different components, stating those cross-sectional sizes. Now, when we measure these, as we'll see in the example that we will be doing next, we'll be able to go through and to doing the breakdown of how it is we arrive at the respective dimensions that are reflected. Then fanged, rounded, scribed, closed and scrolled ends, intersections, bends, wreaths, etc. shall be measured in number. And that will explain that a little further, a little later on, when we get to dealing with the drawing that we'll be doing in the staircase, where these then come in to do with the bends, with the intersections, the scrolled ends, and that, and will be measured in number, and we will give those as extra over rails. Reason for that, because the rails are normally the ones that would bend, that would have their scrolled ends and the intersections. So we will measure that under extra over rails, and you would measure that then. Now the fixings of all of these, the fixing accessories to structural timberwork. You have bolts, including nuts and washers, rag bolts, expanding bolts, anchor bolts, etc. Now the bolts, including nuts and washers, will be measured in kilogram, but the rag bolts will be measured in number. And distinction shall be made for those requiring to be embedded in top, sides, or the soffits of concrete. As for our metalwork, dealing with ribbed floors and permanent decking, the ribbed floors and permanent decking shall be measured in meters squared, shall be measured over the net, shall be measured net on the plane or undeveloped the surface area. So it will be measured net. We will not be concerned again with end laps where they do end, but not concerned with waste, nothing of that sort. And no reduction shall be made for openings once not exceeding 0.5 meters squared. You have metal floors that are formed of open grillwork or gratings, shall be measured in meters squared. And if in banded panels, the size of the panels shall be stated. Banded panels, if our floor would be in panels, sometimes not sure whether you know these gratings. The product specific that is called like your rector grid. When we have this rector grid floors, and I can maybe try and show what they look like. Sometimes we have them where they are in panels. And this would be the floor structure. And we could then have our gratings in panels here. And you can see all the way through to the bottom what is happening. Obviously, it would not be as wide as I am indicating it here, but ladies, you will not be able to walk on there with stilettos. They will go through. But these might be in panels where this entire panel, can be removed. And it'll be the same over there, the same over there. And those would be measured, as you said, would be measured in meters square. No deductions being made for openings that need to be cut, that will be cut in there, not exceeding 0.5 meters square. Stair treads. Do we all know what stair treads are? by show of a thumbs up, so do we know what stair treads are? You've heard of rises and treads? Huh? So when we have generally with metal stairs, we have metal stairs, if that we would have like a structural steel and then we would, in all probability, okay, my angle of my stairs are not. And then these would be my treads. And according to the standard system, stair treads are measured in number. The structural, you see the way that I've drawn that is to ensure that structural strength is there so that does not bend, and you can then use that without any rises, without us having any rises on that. Skirtings, picture rails, copings shall be measured in meters, and skirting stepped over treads and rises of stairs shall be given separately. Corner pieces, end caps, switch sockets, etc. shall be given in number and shall be given as extra over skirtings. Now, aluminium, copper, lead, and they all fall under the category that is in metalwork. The metalwork of aluminium, copper, lead, zinc, stainless, brass, bronze shall be given in accordance with the foregoing principles, and solid sections of metals not marketed in mass shall be given in meters or in number. Right? And there's some of them that where we will not be measuring them in tons or in kilograms, but be given in meters or in number. But when we do that, obviously the description will have to include everything that is required. And there are door frames. In the first year, you've done door frames, pressed steel door frames, the metalwork, measured in number, and the size of the door, the fan light, the side light shall be stated, and the ironmongery normally supplied by the manufacturer shall be included in the description. If you look at door frames, it's normally included it should be included in your description, and the preparation of ironmongery to be fitted or accommodated shall be included in the descriptions or shall be given separately in number. Sometimes you have pressed steel doors. Shall be measured in number, and the description shall deem to include the frames as well as the ironmongery. Metal windows, we also would have done them in first year. They're measured in number. I'm not going to go through those. I mainly wanted to look at the section that deals with our metal, where we'll be looking at staircases and the like. So, when I now go and I look at metalwork, and look at our first drawing. See on our first drawing, that is drawing number 26, which is in the pack that has been uploaded. I start out by looking at what's on the left-hand side. Start out where I can see there's my ground floor, typical middle floor, and my roof floor plan, my roof plan. Right? As you can see, as we start out on these, you can see where it starts, and this is where you start ascending these stairs. Okay? And that there would be this point over there. Here we can see the handrails that are shown, and I'll just draw a line through the handrails, the railings that we'll be measuring as we go through this. Right? That's the metal work that we would be measuring. And I'll take this one step further. Take that one step further, and when I take that further, before I start looking at the specifications and all, I can now see, when I look at the bottom where my rails are fixed into my staircase, into my concrete, I can see the detail that we are given here. I can see that over there it says that the verticals, 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter galvanized mild steel, hollow section, welded to balustrades. You can see that's written there. Now what this means is that I do have these main, I'll just write there, main, or let me call them my primary sections. And then I, of course, also have a 10 by 10 by 3 millimeter galvanized mild steel angle iron steel section. And that forms part of my secondary steel that we have in our railings. All clear? I see that someone has typed in the chat. So I don't know if the problem is on my laptop, but I don't see your screen. I think, Lutando, maybe you must just go out and come back in. I think maybe just leave the meeting and then come back in again. Do others have a problem with seeing my screen? Or can we see the screen? Anyone that wants to comment? You can see the screen. Great. Excuse me. So yes, what we have here, as you can see, this section is bigger than that section over there. It's first foremost, you can see our different sizes. Also, we can now see, now this is product specific. There it says Ramset Dynabolt round head expansion bolts or any approved. And that refers to the bolts that fixes into my concrete. And here it says that the concrete stairs are as per the engineer's specification. So we're not concerned with that. We are here purely to measure this handrails of stairs. That's what we have there. Then take it a little further. Then take it a little further, and now look at detail 2, and let's see where detail 2 is detail 1 and 2 that reflects there. Now let's see what detail 2 says to us. Detail 2 now specifically speaks to a 50 by 6 millimeter galvanized mild steel top rail, by 6 millimeter galvanized mild steel top rail covered with Marley, MHRS. Extrude plastic with 10 millimeter solid angle iron style with 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter galvanized mild steel hollow section fixed to the base plate as per the detail. What does that refer to? It refers to this, and what that, if I can draw that separately, I just hope that my drawing skills does not let me down there. I'll just show that. That would be my 50 by 6 millimeter top rail. And over that top, you would have this Marley extrude plastic with 10 millimeter solid angle iron and styled with 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter galvanized hollow section fixed to the base plate as the detail. Now this would be, let's say, my Marley cover that goes over my steel. Now why would that be? That is for aesthetics, so it can look smart, and we would not have to worry about any of that. Now this here we can see that's the 10 by 10 by 3 millimeter galvanized angle iron. That was referred to further down. And this here is my 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter galvanized hollow section welded to our base plate. Huh? And also we have here a 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter galvanized mild steel balustrade welded to the 100 by 30 by 2 millimeter base plate and fixed to the concrete with 2 by 8 millimeter expansion bolts. Okay. The questions before we continue, are we good? Are we good? Here's a question. Tia?
Sorry, sir. That detail too, is that a drawing, if you like, look at the railings from the front?
My apologies, guys. Tia, could you just repeat that question again? I'd forgotten that I have headphones that I need to place on, and I did not hear your question, and I'm so sorry about that.
Can you hear me now, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear.
That detail too, is it a drawing of when you look at the railings from the front?
I'll show what that looks like. If you take that railing, if you cut it like that, you cut through like that. Yes, it's looking at a cross section through the railing so that you can see. Actually, 1, 2, 2. So the section that you have, that you can see here, would be this section, would be that railing that is cut through that you can see. You're looking at it from this side. You with me, Tia?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, and then as you can see over there, the yellow that you see there would be this here. And then going further is that this, change color, that this would be that line down. Okay, we got there. Because the yellow would be fixed into the concrete stair But the purple would be fixed to that, there, running through there, that we have the red circle, as well as to the top, over the top where we have that same. So the section that says detail 2 is looking at that cut in that manner. Okay, got that? Okay. Are there any other questions that we might have before we get into this? A lot of the detail on here, guys, would not necessarily be that clear for you to see, and that, but a lot of the detail in here is, I almost want to say, not want to say self-explanatory, but it is, you really have to look into it carefully to fully understand and to fully appreciate exactly how this is put together, especially when it comes down to what we would be measuring now. Okay, there are no questions. Okay, that's great. Right. I will now move across, and I will now start, and we will now be looking at, first and foremost, alternative A. Remember, I spoke of the different alternatives that we would be looking at, would be using in order to measure this here. We're looking at alternative A. Something that comes to mind when looking at alternative A, now, I will now be measuring when looking at this drawing, that. I'll also be measuring everything vertical there, everything there, everything, as well as down the bottom. We'll be measuring all of those. And all of those will be measured in meter. I'm looking at measuring all of those sections in meter that I have there. That will be alternative A. And when I look at this drawing, and when I look at the number of floors and that, I will therefore have to determine how many times I would have to multiply all of those. And from alternative A, I would start out and I would now say that the following in galvanized mild steel staircase balustrating. So I'm measuring, doing the metal work, and you heard that the balustrating fell under that metal work section in the standard system. And my description I would start out as such. Quite lengthy. Descriptions are given in there. Balustrating to staircase formed of 50 by 6 millimeter flat raking, continuous stop rail. Stop the bus, sir. Stop the bus. You're speaking of 50 by 6 millimeter galvanized raking continuous stop rail. Where do I find that? As I've said, my top rail. My top rail. Everything that marked in blue there is my top rail. And the size of that top rail is given to us as 50 by 6. Right? Let's change color. and 30 by 30 by 3 millimeters square tubing, square hollow section breaking bottom rail welded between balustrades. Where on earth do I find that? I look at my description and I'm describing the staircase. I'm saying that this staircase is made up of the 50 by 6 millimeter flat raking continuous top rail and 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter square hollow tube, hollow section raking bottom rail. Now that tells me, that raking bottom rail tells me that this is what I see over there. And over there. Everything in yellow there reflects the 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter hollow section raking bottom rail. All with me. I'm describing this now. I'm describing these balustrades now. And all of those are welded between the balusters. Get to the balusters now. The balusters we'd find would be what we see there. And the description said that these 30 by 30 by 3 hollow section raking bottom rail would be welded between the balusters, meaning that these that I have colored there would be going between the balusters. Okay, so my balusters are 30 by 30 by 3, and it tells me square hollow section, and we give how long each one of those are. It's 1269 millimeter long at 500 millimeter centers. Where on earth do I find this information? Where I find this information? I find this information, and I have to now take away what I have on my drawing, because I need to just blow this up. Now I can see. And I can see here that I have dimensions 1075, I have 150. But that does not tell me exactly where I find that. So I see that I have 1075, because I now need to determine, let me change to the color that I've been using for the balusters. My balusters, you can see there. We have one there. I now need to see what that, and I see that I have 1075, I have 150, I go in and I can see that my tile, and I need to do something. See whether I've been given the thickness of the tile. Oh, there we go. I remember that I had the 1075 there. And I had another 150 that I was that I was shown at the bottom below. So it's 1075. I have the 150. I also have, can see here that I have my terrazzo tile of 32 millimeter. I have my screed of 20 millimeter. And then I have a top rail of 6 millimeter that I need to deduct. My top rail of 6 millimeter. And I also have a base plate of 2 millimeter that I have to deduct. So when I did do this calculation here, 5 plus 2, the 7 minus 8, 9, that is 11 plus 5 gives me 16. 1, 2, 6, 9. The length of these balusters. Back to where we were. I now know that my balusters and my balusters, as we are told, are at 500 centimeters. 1269 millimeters long. Each one welded to the top rail and the other end fitted with a 100 by 30 by 2 millimeter flat base plate. And that base plate would be there might be my base plate would be there, my 2 millimeter base plate. That will be welded on there. Remember the description said that anything that needs to come on there needs to be included in the description. So the base plate that is welded onto the bottom of the baluster will be included in the description, and we will indicate that it is welded on, twice holed and bolted to the concrete with and including 8 millimeter expansion bolts, 40 millimeters long. Now that 40 millimeter long expansion bolt we will have to state that it is elsewhere measured, because it will not be included in this description, including the mortises and with 10 by 10 square section uprights. We need to determine the length of those square 10 by 10 uprights. So what are those uprights that we are talking about? These are the uprights, not that one. With everything that does not have does not reflect as going through to the bottom of my staircase. Okay? So what are the lengths of those? Remember I had this dimension of 1075. The bottom I need to deduct my, not the bottom, at the top I need to deduct my rail, and I need to deduct my 30 millimeter bottom rail, slope raking bottom rail as well. So that is 5 minus 6 gives me 9. 6 minus 3 gives me 3. A length of 1039 millimeters long. at 125 millimeter centers, and that all is welded between the top and the bottom rails, including the welding and the bending. And that's a description telling us what this handrail, all right, of what this handrail, of what one set of handrail is made up of. But now I have a look at that, and I will be measuring these handrails starting from the bottom. I would say that, just call that 1, 2, that 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I need to measure, and all I need to measure here would be the lengths of these. Why? Why is that all that I need to measure? Because what I have done, I have now measured because we can see that we have different lengths here. I've given my description indicating what the various centers are. And I've measured this one balustrade. I've measured this balustrade, one balustrade on its own. And if I now go, I just take this. Now look at this from the top. I will now, it's a pity that we would now not be able to scale this, but you'll have to bear with me and trust me when I say that these are the dimensions, because these now actually need to be scaled, or of course we can by using the information that is given to us over there. We can, by means of Pythagoras, determine what these lengths need to be. When I look at this, and I'm fortunate that I have a drawing in front of me, and I also have a scale ruler with me. When you do that, and the drawings that I have are now on A3 size, and when I do measure, and it shows me that my scale is at 1:50, when I scale my first one, I see that this one reflects here as 1.5 meters. But let us see if we can actually calculate these. Do you think that we can calculate these drawings using the dimensions that we have? Think we can calculate them? I think we can. What do you feel? Or feel we can calculate them? What would we use? We would use dimensions that are given to us, particularly if we will be starting over there. We can go through and we can say that it is 250 plus 250 plus 250 plus 250 plus 250 plus 140. Agree? I'll then say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can I say 5 times 250 and 1 times 140 for horizontal? Can I say that? So then we determine it's 250, 250, 250, 250, 250. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 1, 250 plus 140. That gives me total there of 1390 on my horizontal. You agree with me? You agree with me? That's I have 1390 on my horizontal. If I look at the balustrade and I take my balustrade and I'm starting out my bottom one from there to there. You agree with me? Right? I've got some people that agree that says that that is equal to that. Okay? Then I'll say it right again. I'll say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 treads. And I have that added section of 140 over there. That's how I arrive at 1390. Right? Do I have my vertical? Can I calculate my vertical? Is my vertical 1075? Or is my vertical 1075 plus 150? Was it 1225? Which one do you think? Come, talk to me. Which one do you think? Nobody want to take a
Isn't it
guess?
1225, sir?
Sean, you reckon it's 1225?
Yes, sir.
I want you to think carefully, Brashan. I'm just going to clear what I've done here to show. And then I want to ask the question, what is that shape that I have there? What's that shape? Is that a... Oh, how do I spell parallelogram? Is that a parallelogram? It is now? What? It's a parallelogram, yeah. Okay. Now let's blow it up a little bit. Have a look at it. If I measure the length of this, remember I've already described everything here. I've described that. I've described that. I've spoken about everything in between. Right? So I've described it. What do I need now? What do I need? I need the length in meters. My question again, Prashant, you said that we need to add the 150. Where is my parallelogram measured from? Is it measured? Change my... Then I'll change it. Is my parallelogram measured there? Would that be the length? Or would we have it measured which one? Red or blue? Red or black?
It's black now, sir.
Is it black now? Hey, you like a color, you change your mind quickly. Yes, sir?
I said I am one, sir.
Huh? so, so you say it's, but I'm glad that I'm glad that you've gotten into that, because I'm glad that you said that, because now from that you can now see how quickly one can make that mistake. Are you with me? Because what do we need? We need to calculate that length. And we will be using the threads that we had. We said it was 5 by 250 and 1 by 140, and that gave us, what was that again? I can't remember now. 1390. Huh? 1390 as my horizontal, and for my vertical we said 1075. So I now say 1.39 squared plus 1.08 squared and the square root of that. What does that give me? $1.76 meters.
Yes.
Happy? Okay. So my first length there is 1.76 meters. And in the same way, I can now go ahead and I can calculate the rest. Because now when I look at my next one, I can see, okay, I've got the 140. So that's 1 times 140. Then how many threads do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 threads. But what about the top there? What about the top? So now I go back and I see, what does my drawing show to me at the top, at the next floor? From what I gather here, it looks like I have another 140 there. Is that true? Does it look like that? Maybe I should clear that so that we can see. Remember that this here was 140. That was 140. Okay. So I would assume that there would also be 140 when I look at the number of threads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 threads. So I have 7 times 250, and I say to you that I also have 2 by 140. You agree with me? Agree with that? And when I say that, it then gives me, what does that give you? 2030. Happy? And what about my height? My height is the same. So I say 2.03 squared plus 1.08 squared and the square root of that. What do we get? we get the length? 2.3. Happy with 2.3? Right. Now, take it back. I said this was 1. Right? And that's 1. I say 1 equals 1.76 meters. Okay? I said this was 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, do you agree with me that 2, 3, 4, and 5 are of equal lengths? Right? Now I say 2, 3, 4, and 5 is equal to 2.3 meters. Right? And all of that meaning that when I write this in my description, in my dimension column, I would say 2.3, that will be times 4. Happy with that? Happy with that? Okay. Now, oh, here it comes now. Now I need to look and I need to measure. Oh, no, why can I not get to this? And I need to measure number 6, number 6 to blue. I need to measure number 6. So when I need to now measure number 6 and I go back and I have a look at what, I unfortunately have to clear this, guys, but this is a part of the recording and I cannot get to the top of the stage. And I need to look at this section here. Let me move that aside. So I now need to look at my last one, and this will be to the landing at the top where and I need to look at what I would be doing in measuring. And I need to say, I have, in counting these here, I say 1 larger. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have 11 times 250. I have a 140 here, and I'll have a 140 at the top. So I say 2 times 140. All happy with that? All happy with that? I got a couple of people agreeing with me. Those who don't agree, speak to me later so we can show you how we arrive at that. So what does that length give me? That gives me 3030. Come again?
I was saying 3030.
3030. Okay, right. So now I have to say it is now 3.03 squared plus 1.08 squared, and the square root of that. What do we get with that? $3.22. right? And I'll go back to what I had earlier. We had, I cannot remember those dimensions that I've written down, but we'll have one of the long rail that goes at the top. Okay? So now we have, I'm not sure, we said we had one that was, I think was 1.75 or what, I can't remember what it was. And we had 4 by 2.3, and we now have 1 by 3.22. Okay. But as it stands, as what I have measured here, it is now, if I draw each one of those, these railings that I've now measured here, they would be fixed, show it like that, into the staircase. They would be fixed to one another. But if I look at them on plan, I'll have that, and I'll have that. I'll have that, and I'll have that. What does it show? In the 4 lines that I've drawn there. What does it show? Tia.
Sorry, sir. The length that you calculated here isn't the same as on the workings that you have uploaded to Moodle. Teams.
I know that because those were scaled.
Oh, okay.
So now we have now calculated them.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
See, the information that we've used, I've used information given to me on the drawings. On the drawing, and I've calculated that. And I would assume that my calculations should be more accurate than the scaling. Are you with me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So now, if you have a look at this now, I've blown it up a little bit. Those lines that I've drawn here, that line, those 4 lines that I've drawn there. What is significant about those 4 lines there? What is there that you can see that is significant about those 4 lines? Anything that you particular that you can see? I'll take it. I'll clear those lines first so you can have a look at what is there before I draw those lines, before I draw them again. Is there anything significant that you can see about that line? That line? And that one. Anything significant? Nothing. Okay. If we have a look at these, you'd notice that those lines stand alone, that they are not joined to one another. To one another. Can you see that? Now, I need for you to take your mind to any staircase that you might have walked up or walked down, and in any handrail that you might have encountered, whether the handrail have been a brick handrail, or whether it been concrete, or whether it been a metal or a timber handrail. Is there any? Can you remember that you have seen the handrails not being connected to one another? And I don't think so. Might be very odd occasions, but the thing is, this staircase needs to be a unit. And when I clear that, you'd see you'd see that over there are short or small sections whereby they are linked. And if you have a look over there, you can actually see that they run as a unit. Can you see there? Right? So we now also need to measure those sections where they do join up, where they meet one another, so that we can need to measure that over there. And when I look at my drawing and I want to see how many I have here, I will have to go into my drawing and to determine, and I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys agree? I have 5 of them. I now need to determine and measure the length between those. And where do I find that? I go down to my drawing, and over here, I see that there's 50 mil there. That 50 mil refers to that joint or refers to that over there. So I will have 0.05, and I would have 5 of those as you guys have counted for me. Okay? I take it one step further. I need to go out again here. And I now need to look and see just exactly how this handrail, where it is fixed over there. Where it is fixed into the wall, or will it be freestanding? Will it just be standing there and with nothing fixed onto it there? And when I look at that dimension there, which is for the wall, remember that we have measured our rail up to there. I now need to extend that handrail there, and I need to extend that by 110 millimeters through. I might have made a mistake there earlier. I said 2 by 140 because there's a 90 mil that I should have taken into account, which will change the dimension to that slightly by 11 by. No, man, not 90. That was 3.17 meters. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? If you can remember, when I measured the length, I said 2 by 140. But looking at this here, 140 is at the bottom, and I can see where my staircase stops. I have a 90 millimeter that I need to add on there, and not a 140 like what I have done previously. You guys see the mistake I've made? Right? So it will be, my length there would be 3.17 meters. Okay? And for now, for my length, I will now have this 110 for that added section. And that is the measuring of my handrail. Because in my description I've given all of this information here. I've given all of how many of what the spacings are. I've given how they're fixed. I've given all of those. This would then refer to our alternative A. Right? Are there questions? Are there questions? Before I request that we just take a short 5-minute bathroom break, and I'll be back in a second.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
The 110, I'm going to book it when we book those lengths.
Yes, we'll measure, we'll add that 110, because that 110, that rail would be extended, if I can show it. You see where this rail would go into the wall there? That's where it gets fixed into the wall, that section there. Goes beyond. So we'll add that 110 to all these 50s that we've had here, the 50 that we had there, as well as the lengths of those. Oops. Yeah. You with me?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Just give me a couple of moments. I just need a bathroom break, guys, and I'll be back shortly. right, guys, I'm back. My apologies for that. That was now measuring that whereby we calculate and we determine whereby we measure the handrails and giving the different lengths and measured in meters as per the standard system. Now, when we look at alternative B is where we now go out and we measure this entire, the railings, the balustrade, everything here, and we now measure all of this in number. Now you can think, if you'll be measuring this in number, still as per the standard system, the extent of our description should now be including lengths, it should now be including just a little more, it should be giving a little more information, because we will now be measuring this in number and we will be saying that all of this is in number 1. There's 1. You can think to yourself, when looking at alternative B, that is measured in number, we'll need a little more information. So when you go in, and I will now show to you how we'll go about doing that. And you now think about this, whereby we previously we just mentioned that we have a 50 by 6 millimeter top rail, continuous top rail, a raking continuous top rail. We'd have a 30 by 30 by 3 square hollow raking section. So where we said, now we will be indicating and saying, this is how many we would have of those. So we now look at, and when I look at alternative B, it will still be the following in galvanized mild steel staircase balustrading. And it will say that the balustrading to my staircase comprising, I don't have to say, I don't need to state how many, comprising 6 raking flight lengths. We say 1 of 1.75 that we've measured, 4 of 2.3 meters, and 1 of 3.17 meters. So you get the difference is we are now indicating just how many there are of each one. So what I'm saying is, where we calculate what was this? This was 3.16 or what? I can't remember what the length was there. These were 2.3 meters each, and the bottom one was 1.75, whatever it is that we've measured that. So we're now indicating that we have 4 times 2.3, we have 1 times 3.17 or 18, I'm not sure, and 1 times 1.75. In my description, this is what I give in my description, saying that the balustrade to the staircase comprising 6 raking flight lengths, and then I indicate, this is how many we had of that, including short horizontal lengths formed of 50 by 5 millimeter, flat raking, continuous top rail, and 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter square hollow tubing section with a bottom rail welded between the balusters of 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter square hollow section. And we give the length that we've determined earlier, 1269 millimeters long at 500 millimeter centers, each with one end welded to the top rail and the other end fitted with a 100 by 30 by 2 millimeter flat base plate, twice holed for and bolted to the concrete with and including 8 millimeter expansion bolt, 40 millimeters long, including the mortises. And with 10 by 10 millimeters square section uprights, 1039 millimeters long at 1 to 5 centers, welded between the top and the bottom rail, including welding and bending. So, what we've taken time to determine the lengths of the various flights in alternative A, that's measured in meters. We will still be calculating what those flight lengths are, but we will now include those flights, all those respective flights, in my description, stating how many of each of those flight lengths we have. I'm not sure whether that makes sense to you. Right? I've got one person that says, yes, it makes sense, sir. I've got another one. Whereby we're saying that instead of the way we had gone through painstakingly decalculating each, we will still be measuring the length of each one. But we will now include all of that in the description. Now, in the description, you'll see there's a mistake there. It shows 18, but that's not 18. In the description there, you will include the lengths of each one of those. So we have, if we have a look, and we've counted them, and I've said that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's why in my description, I indicate that I have 6 raking flight lengths. Right? I show that I have 6, and now you can see where I get those 6 from. You see where we get those 6 from. That will be number 6. And how many of number 6 do I have? Only 1. Right? Right? How many of number 5, number 4, number 3, and number 2? I can say that I have 4 of. And of number 1, I have 1. And if we add 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 1 gives me a total of 6. 6 flight lengths. I'm just showing, just giving you, showing how I get to the 6. Because looking at the drawing shows me that, and I then just take it from there. And whereby we also indicate, remember the 50 millimeters in between there, that I have 5 of. That is how we go about, and then the remainder of the description, the rest of the description would be the same as per alternative A, where we calculated each one of them. That's one way. Right? Then when we now go through and we look at the next alternative. The next alternative is where I can still measure this, where I will now be measuring this in tons. When I measure this in tons, it takes up quite a bit of your time, because we will now need to go in and we will now have to split each and every one of these sections, measuring, excuse me, measuring each one of these as we go along. We will now split them up. We'll be measuring the 30 by 30 by 3. We'll be measuring the 10 by 10 angles. We'll be measuring the 50 by 6 millimeter. So we'll be looking at each one of these different sections, and we'll have to calculate or determine the length as to where they come about. But again, we will still have to measure the length of each of these flights. So the length of each of these flights will determine, it will be the same as per what we had measured in the previous 2 sections. We're looking at the alternative C that we look at. It will be said that the following in galvanized mild steel staircase balustrading, and we will then have to do the detail for the mass of these. It will say 50 by 6 millimeter flat continuous rail. Now we do not have the weight of this, and we will say that times question mark kgs per meter equals my weight. And then I will the length that I have determined, which was 1.75 to 2.3, and I think 3.18, whatever that, I will now reflect those these when I measure in my detail for mass, especially for my 50 by 6 millimeter flat. That will be times 1, that will be times 4, that will be times 1. When looking at my detail for mass, and I say 50 by 6 millimeter flat continuous rail. And I would also, of course, have my 0.05, which I have 5, and my 0.11, which I would have 1.
The first one is it not 1.76?
1.76. Okay, I just couldn't remember. Thank you. 1.76.
Yeah, and also is the third one is 3.17.
3.17. Great, thank you. I couldn't remember, I'm getting old now. My mind doesn't remember all these things that well anymore. One of the days I'll have to say where were we, what, I don't know. So getting old, that's why I need to keep fit and active. Okay, so those were what you will have for the 50 by 6 millimeter flat. And you guys all know where the 50 by 6 millimeter flat, what it refers to. It refers to that. Refers to that. 50 by 6 millimeter flat. Right? Now we have a description. You see the description says knee or ramp to last. What on earth does that mean, Manya? Don't fluke us here now. What does that? Can you see that description? Tian, you see that description that says there, knee or ramp to last. Now who knows what a knee does? When we go into a doctor's surgery or something, you look at those diagrams that they have on the wall and so they normally would indicate a knee like that. Is that correct? I cannot draw because at the bottom here you'll have the foot and the the toes there. I cannot draw. See, that's why I don't continue to. I'm just showing what the knee normally shows. Yeah, that's great. That's love. Good. It's great. So now, what it means is a knee is where we have a look, and I'm going to blow that up. I'm going to show the do that and do that and do that and do that. You know what that means? This here would be my 50 by 6. Okay? What this here is And that there is the following. That comes there, I'll have that, and then I would also have that. So this on the top side is that, and this, the bottom side, is that. Can you see what I mean? The similarity between this and that. You see that? There's the knee, right? But how does that fall into what it is you are saying, sir? What I'm saying is that when you look at this from the side, that's what you see. You look at this from the side. And from the top, it is the rail that comes down, show down, and that is down. And remember that this was the 50. The 50 that is shown over there, right? So this is the 50, but this is how it would be fixed, and it would be welded there, show different color. It would be welded there, and it would be welded there. But over here and there, we would have a bend. You see that? And that is where, and this bend refers to that as well as that. Okay? So this is the bend or a knee to last. And how many do we have of those? We've calculated, and we've seen that there is 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But on here we see that on each bend, on each section or change, we notice that we have 1, 2. So each one of those, so it's 5 that we have, but we have 2 at each knee or ramp. Does that make sense? Okay. So as I say, if I draw this here, use a different color way that can be seen better. Okay. That is there. That will be 1. And that is there, and it will be 2. Right? You see there? To the top of the knee and the bottom of the knee. So at the top close to the ITB and the bottom close to the patella. That is where we. That's how I look at it. So I have 2 ramps or knees per connection where my 50 by 5 would meet. And then, of course, I'd also shown mitered angled intersection to the last. And that will be that. And I have 2 miter sections on each one, and I have 5 of those as well. Miter sections. That is my 50 by 5 and everything that has to do with it. My 50 by 6 millimeters, my apology. Okay? All happy with that? Right? Now, as I make my way down, I'm not measured at the top. Right? And I need to come down, and I will now be measuring my 10 by 10 millimeter square section upright, welded between the raking top and the bottom rails. Right? The length of those, what are the lengths of those? We've got the lengths of those, and it's measured in kg per meter in order for us to arrive at the tonnage or the weight of these. And where do we find these? Let us just make some space, not make some noise. Let's make some space. And we find those that we are speaking of would be 10 by 10s in between. My blue lines there. So, and I'll go in and I need to determine what the length of those are. What the lengths of those are. How do we calculate what those lengths are? I need to find, and I see that I have a length of 1075. Right? I have a length of 1075, but where does that 1075 take me to? Is that the length of my, would that the length be of my 10 by 10 angle? What would that length be? If I have a look at where does this 1075 take me to? You see where that 1075 takes me to? One 1075 takes me to the bottom of my 30 by 3. You see that? And the same token, that 105 takes me to the top of my 6 millimeter. So it goes without saying that the 10 by 10 angle the length would be 1075 minus 6 and minus 30. That is 9. That gives me 3 minus 6 minus 3 is 3, 0. So the length of each of these would be 1.04 meters. Do you agree with me? Right. So, I now need to determine how many of these do I need. And for that, I would go in and I would look at the actual drawing, and I will now, this is what I would do, because I will be doing that now. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 1, 6, 7, 8, skip 1, 9, 10, 11, skip 1, 12, 13, 14, skip 1, 15, 16, 17, 18. You see 18, or have I miscounted one? My eyesight is not the best anymore. I get 18. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Do you guys also see 18? That measure? So for there I have 18. And there's only one of those. Right? And I look at my next one that I'll have 4 of. And I see and I go and I say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I can't see where they're in the. Maybe I'll need to look at another place. Maybe I can look over here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I have 12 of those. And I have times 4 rakes. Okay? Then on my bottom one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll go 8. And I only have one of those. That's what I calculate on these rails here for the 110 by 110 angle. The square section, my apologies. And then raking intersection to last. For each one of those, I would have a raking section, a raking intersection where my top rail 50 by 6 meets with my bottom 30 by 30 by 3. For each one of those, I would have a raking intersection. It will be 2 times 8, 2 times 18, and 2 times 12. So 2 times 12 times 4, because that would be 4. I make my way further and look at my 30 by 30 by 3 square hollow section, the baluster that's welded between the top rail and my base plate, measured in meters, and determining the length of those. Have we not calculated those lengths before? Calculate those as 1269. So that will be 1.27. When I look at those, excuse me, at my balusters, I can see that I have 1, 2, maybe I should switch the pen on. Now look at my balusters. 1, 2, 2, and there'll be another one, 3 down there. For my next one, I would calculate them and I'd go and I'd say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them, times that by length of 1.29, and I have 4 flights. For the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now 6 of those, and that would be multiplied by the 1.29. That is for all my balusters. As I make my way through to my 30 by 30 by 3, by 30 by, apologies, when I look at my, I've not looked at my raking intersection on the last, where my raking intersections for each of those that I've just mentioned would be times 2. Each one of those 1.29s would be times 2. In my top section, it will be 1.29, and that will be times 2 times how many? No, wait. That is measured in number. What's wrong with you? It will be 2, and I have 6, we say. That's for the top. For the middle sections, we have 2, and we said that we had 2, 4 times 4 times 4, and for the bottom section, we have 2 times 3. Okay. Then I need to look at my base plates. My 100 millimeter long base plates, which is 30 by 2 millimeter flat base plates, 100 millimeter long, twice holed for bolts. And the bolts will be elsewhere measured, and they are measured in number. And for these, it is better to measure these in number. And I'm not specifically speaking of those bolts there, of those base plates, which would be 30 millimeter by 2, and they are 100 millimeters long. It is better to measure those in number. And when measuring them in number, we can then indicate, because we are told each one has 2 holes, and we can determine exactly how many we need based on the number of balusters that we have measured. When I look at my balusters, I would have 6 of them. I would have 4 times 4, and I would have 3. That is for my base plates. And then also measure my 8 millimeter diameter expansion bolts, 40 millimeter long, including the mortises. What's a mortise? The mortise is where we drill for that hole that will take that 8 millimeter expansion bolt. And remember, 2 holes, so it would be 2 times 3. It would be 2 times 6, and we 2 times 4 times 4. That's for my 8 millimeter expansion bolts. And then the one that I was in a hurry to get to earlier on, I'll get to now, would now be my 30 by 30 by 3 millimeter hollow section rails, which will be my lengths at the bottom. My lengths at the bottom. And I've determined the length, and that was 3.17, that was 2.3, and this one was 1.76. Is that correct? 1.76. Right. Okay. So I have my lengths there, my 30 by 3 millimeter square hollow section rails measured in meter. It's all at the bottom. So I have my 1.76, 1/0. I have my 2.3, that is now times 4, and I have 1/2 here. But if we go in and we have a look at, if that was my baluster, and this rail ran through there, I would have to deduct each of those 30 millimeters where all my balusters meet with my bottom sloping rail. Yes. And I also needed to also have included at the bottom the there. So that will be 0.05, and I have 4 of those in 0.11. That's one. So when I look at these, I will have to deduct that 30 millimeters over there. How many times does that occur? We said at the top that we had, how many did we have of the balusters at the top? We had 3 here. For those we had 4. For that one, I think we had 6. So we need to deduct the 0.03, 0.03 times 6, 0.03 times 4 times 4, and 0.03 times 3. That is for where this intersection takes place, where we need to deduct for the length, need to deduct that length that was measured all the way through. So we need to deduct that over there. Okay? And I also need to measure my raking T intersections on to the last. My raking T intersections. So when I look at my raking T intersections on that, what does that refer to? What does that refer to? It refers to each and every time that we get the raking T intersections, because these here are also T intersections. So every time there's a meeting that takes place, there are 2 T intersections that take place there. So at my top, my raking T intersection, that at my top would be 2 of them, and I times 6. The middle one would be 2 of them times 4 times 4. Then the bottom one would be 2 of them times 3. That is for my raking T intersections. Then I also need to look at the mitered angles on the last. Mitered angles on those rails would take place over there, 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 and there. And I would have two mitered angles. And looking at that from the top, it would look as follows. Looking at that from the top, I would have my because remember this is my 50 millimeter, so I'd have a mitered angle there. So at each one of those sections where, over here, I would have this detail and I'd have to measure two mitered angles and I have 5 of those intersections between my 30 by 30 by 3 square hollow section rail. And as we measured with the top rail, where we measured the knee or the ramp, so I also need to now measure the knee or the ramp on the last, and I would have each section here would have that 2 by 5, but I would also have another one right at the top there. And the Marley, the handrail, the paint, we would measure that next time we go out into industry. Okay. My throat actually hurts from all the talking now, because I've been talking on my own here. Alternative D, I will not be doing today. I'll be doing alternative D next week. Because it takes a slightly different angle to this all, which we would look at. I'll look at next week. But for now, for the next couple of minutes, I would allow for you to ask me questions, and on what it is that we've just covered, or anything like that. I see no hand.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I actually have a request.
I'm listening, Mr. Nipwa.
Yeah, sir, if it's possible, can you please try to correct the errors on these memorandums and upload them? Only if possible, though.
I'll do so. No, I will do so. I'll correct the errors that do occur over there.
Thank you.
I'm actually making a note here that I need to do those. I see another hand. Tuleni. I think you might be muted, Tuleni.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Yes, morning. Sir, I got lost on the, where is it? On the bolts. These bolts, do we get them on the description?
You're talking about the bolts that I measured, the expansion bolts?
Yes, the expansion bolt, the 8mm expansion bolt, 40mm long, including mortise. Do we get them on the description?
If it was not given on the drawing, I will most definitely give that to you as part of the description. I just need to just have a look at my drawing to see if they...
Because I can't find them anyway.
No. I noticed here that they've not... Yeah, yes, it's given. It's given to us. It's given to us.
Where? It says 2 millimeter.
2 by 8 millimeter diameter expansion bulbs.
40 millimeter long.
Okay, the 40 millimeter, I placed the 40 millimeter in there as a length that I thought it should be.
Okay.
Oh, look, if you say, remember that in quants, we're not given the length, you can assume those lengths.
Oh, okay.
You did not know that?
Mm-mm.
Eh? No, I worry now because that is something that you should have been told in first year.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? I see another hand. Mr. Siziba.
Sorry, sir. Is it possible that I can have my test one marked script?
Yes, I must just take it into the office with me. And then once I have them at the office, I will inform you guys and you can come and collect it from me.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay? Not a problem. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. So to the highest